50 warships, 100,000 marines, 7 warlords, and the 3 Navy admirals, Akainu, Aokiji, and Kizaru. The stage is set, and Fleet Admiral Sengoku reveals a shocking truth as a battle with Whitebeard looms.
On the next One Piece, ticking down to the time of battle, the Navy's strongest lineup in position. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The secret of Ace's birth is revealed. Saved by the determination of his father Roger, the hope of his mother Rouge, and the mercy of Garp, he entered an unwelcoming world. Now he must rely on the help of his loved ones once more.
On the next One Piece, a vast fleet appears. Here come the Whitebeard Pirates. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Much to the surprise of the Navy, the Moby Dick surfaces in the middle of Marineford. On the deck stands Whitebeard, the man who Ace calls father, and his 14 commanders, the pirates he calls family, who share Luffy's determination to stop the execution.
On the next One Piece, the beginning of the war, Ace and Whitebeard's past. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The players have assembled at last. Whitebeard unleashes a tsunami that is set to swallow every last Marine and turn Navy headquarters upside down. The tides of a new era are forming, and the winner of this battle will rule the waves.
On the next One Piece, the force that could destroy the world, the power of the Tremor fruit. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Mihawk and Kizaru launch an attack against Whitebeard. Unfazed, his commanders leap into the fray, showing off their fearsome devil fruit powers. As the struggle rages on, Admiral Akainu unleashes a living hell that transforms the battlefield.
On the next One Piece, an all-consuming inferno, Admiral Akainu's power. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Although the Straw Hat crew's battle with Oars is long in the past, Little Oars Jr. is still wreaking havoc as a member of Whitebeard's crew. Bursting through the bay, he goes head-to-head with the Navy's team of giants in an earth-shaking confrontation.
On the next One Piece, a descendant of the beast, Little Oars Jr. full speed ahead. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
After Oars Jr. risks his life to pave the way forward, the Whitebeard Pirates rush for the execution platform. However, just as their rescue mission begins to pick up momentum, Sengoku employs a surprise tactic that turns the tide yet again.
On the next One Piece, justice for the winners, Sengoku's strategy in action. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Luffy and company fall from the sky and land in the middle of the battlefield. With his brother in sight, Luffy rushes forward as fast as his legs will carry him. Yet even with his goal in sight, the adversaries before him may prove to be an insurmountable wall.
On the next One Piece, Straw Hat team arrives. Tension grows at the battlefield. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Luffy leaps into the fray. Battling against familiar faces and new foes alike, he races toward the scaffold like a whirlwind of destruction. And as his brother begs for him to turn back, Luffy shares some powerful words of his own.
On the next One Piece, even if it means death, Luffy versus the Navy, the battle starts! I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
As Ace watches helplessly while the battle unfolds before him, he comes to an important decision, though he's unable to act. Meanwhile, a flurry of friends, foes, and fantastic powers explodes on the battlefield.
On the next One Piece, hard battles, one after another. Devil Fruit Eaters versus Devil Fruit Eaters. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Facing Kuma on the battlefield, Ivankov reveals they were once friends. However, Eva's pleas to his old companion fall on deaf ears as Kuma continues his attacks. In a sea of confusion, only Doflamingo seems to know the truth.
On the next One Piece, Kuma's transformation, Eva's blow of anger. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Luffy's progress is halted by Dracul Mihawk, Warlord of the Sea. Cleaving apart the massive wall of ice surrounding the battlefield, one blow from Mihawk's sword will rend Luffy in two. The Whitebeard Pirates counter with a swordsman of their own, but will his strength be enough?
On the next One Piece, the great swordsman Mihawk, Luffy comes under the attack of the Black Sword. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The Whitebeard Pirates and Navy forces appear to be in a deadlock as powerful fighters from each side clash again and again. However, when an army of human weapons encircle the battlefield, Luffy and his allies find themselves overwhelmed by their explosive attacks.
On the next One Piece, the extermination strategy in action, the power of the pacifistas. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
After witnessing Squard's betrayal against Whitebeard, ripples of distrust and uncertainty spread within his alliance. And yet Whitebeard's faith will not be shattered, and it soon becomes clear that his allies are falling into a clever setup launched by the Navy.
On the next One Piece, Akainu's plot, Whitebeard entrapped. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
At last, the world's most powerful pirate, Whitebeard, leaps into the fray. The Navy cowers in fear before the power of his Tremor fruit, as it literally changes the landscape of the battle. However, Sengoku has a plan that may yet turn the tide.
On the next One Piece, the encircling walls activated. The Whitebeard Pirates backed into a corner. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
The Whitebeard Pirates are trapped in the bay, held there by Akainu's magma. With Navy fire on all sides, they climb over Oars Jr.'s body in hopes of pushing forward. In the midst of this chaos, the order for Ace's execution is given, and Luffy makes a drastic decision.
On the next One Piece, execution order issued. Break through the encircling walls. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Luffy bursts into the plaza, leading the assault on the Navy forces. However, the three admirals block his path, making victory all but impossible. Fortunately, Whitebeard has one final trick up his sleeve if Luffy can survive long enough to receive his aid.
On the next One Piece, moving into the final phase, Whitebeard's trump card for recovery. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
His adoptive son within reach, Whitebeard charges forth, undeterred by the strongest warriors the Navy has to offer. With both sides swinging between victory and defeat, the battlefield plunges into chaos. Then Marco takes to the sky and soars to Ace's side.
On the next One Piece, Luffy at the end of his tether. An all-out battle at the Oris Plaza. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Faced with the might of the three admirals, even Whitebeard's most powerful fighters begin to falter. As Ace watches his loved ones struggle in vain to save him, he weeps, questioning the meaning of his life. Refusing to relent, Luffy begs Ivankov for one last chance at victory.
On the next One Piece, the power that will shorten one's life, energy hormone redox. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Empowered by Ivankov's energy hormone technique, Luffy dashes forward, heedless of his injuries. Yet even with his sudden strength, he faces a wall of Marines blocking the path to Ace. Among them, an old friend appears for a reunion neither of them expected to come so soon.
On the next One Piece, to live up to a promise, Luffy and Kobe collide. I'm gonna be king of the pirates!
Unaware of his own power, Luffy unleashes the Conqueror's spirit, temporarily halting Ace's execution. The Navy, now recognizing the threat he poses, sends all of their forces after him. Thankfully, Ivankov has a plan that may forge a path to Ace.
On the next One Piece, the scaffold at last. The way to Ace has opened. I'm gonna be king of the pirates.
Thanks to Inazuma's makeshift bridge, Luffy is able to ascend to the scaffold. Garp, unable to watch any longer, leaps into Luffy's path. Maintaining his pride as a Marine, he faces his own grandson in battle, cursing the life of piracy that Luffy and Ace chose.
On the next One Piece, each on different paths. Luffy versus Garp. I'm gonna be king of the pirates.
Ace is free at last, and the pair of brothers are unstoppable. Although the Whitebeard Pirates are emboldened by their teamwork, their captain is not convinced that their escape will come so easily. With his eyes on a new age, Whitebeard makes a difficult decision.
On the next One Piece, Ace rescued. Whitebeard's final order. I'm gonna be king of the pirates.
The Whitebeard Pirates reluctantly follow their captain's final order to retreat. However, Akainu refuses to let his enemies escape and provokes Ace by insulting his adoptive father. Ace fights to defend the honor of his crew, but risks losing his life in the process.
On the next One Piece, the power that can burn even fire. Akainu's ruthless pursuit. I'm gonna be king of the pirates.
Ace protects his brother from Akainu, but suffers a mortal blow in the process. Jinbei and the Whitebeard Pirates rush to his aid, but soon realize he is far beyond help. As Ace takes his final breaths, he gives a heartfelt message to his comrades.
On the next One Piece, looking for the answer. Fire Fist Ace dies on the battlefield. I'm gonna be king of the pirates.
Witnessing the death of his brother right before his eyes, Luffy falls into a state of shock, unable to move or speak. Yet, the battle rages on around him. Unleashing the full extent of his fury, Whitebeard threatens to bring the walls of Marineford crashing down.
On the next One Piece, the Navy headquarters falls. Whitebeard's unspeakable wrath. I'm gonna be king of the pirates. Subscribe, you guys! Join our crew on the One Piece YouTube channel!